Zane Vellaro stood in the white-lit docking bay of the United Interstellar Culinary Exchange ship, arms crossed, a small metal case at his feet. His eyes flicked across the corridor to the approaching figure, a tall, slightly hunched being with skin like wet bark and a wide, flat face. It was wrapped in a silver robe, the hem brushing the spotless floor. The translator unit on its chest vibrated faintly as it came to a stop. "I am Yilrex of the Tharn," it said, voice metallic but clear. "You are the culinary ambassador?" Zane nodded. "Zane Vellaro, Earth's representative for the taste trials." "You can just call me Zane." Yilrex studied him. "You are smaller than anticipated." Zane grinned. "I get that a lot." "Your species has a reputation for reckless consumption," Yilrex said, stepping aside to gesture toward a corridor. "We will begin the evaluation shortly." Zane picked up the case and followed. "You're in for a treat." The corridor opened into a spacious chamber with a long table in the center. Several Tharn officials were already seated, their bodies folded like cranes, eyes unblinking. A few other alien species stood along the walls, observing through translucent veils. The air smelled faintly of sterilization and ozone. Zane placed the metal case on the table and opened it with a hiss. Inside were 3 small containers, each sealed and labeled. He pulled out the first. "This is jalapeno. Mild by our standards. Should be a good starting point." Yilrex raised a hand. "We have reviewed your biochemical analyses. These compounds, capsaicinoids, are recognized as neurotoxins. Your species consumes them voluntarily." Zane glanced at the audience. "Yeah, some of us even grow them as a hobby." There was a ripple of discomfort among the Tharn. One leaned toward another and muttered something through its translator. Zane ignored it and placed a green pepper slice on a dish, sliding it toward Yilrex. "It won't kill you. Just try it." Yilrex hesitated, then reached out with a long, jointed appendage, pinched the slice, and brought it to its mouth. There was a pause, then a slow chew. The translator buzzed. "This burns." Zane chuckled. "That's the idea." Yilrex dropped the rest of the slice. "How does your species endure this?" Zane opened the second container. "We build tolerance. You start small, then work your way up." "Next is habanero. It's a bit more intense." Yilrex waved a limb. "We must test all levels for documentation purposes." "Proceed." The habanero testing went worse. One Tharn official audibly gagged. A different alien, tall, thin, with a soft blue glow around its head, had to be escorted out after a single whiff of the pepper oil. Zane kept his expression neutral. "We're not even at the top yet." Yilrex's eyes narrowed. "You mean there is more?" Zane opened the final container with a hiss. Inside was a single wrinkled red pepper. "This," he said, lifting it carefully, "is a ghost pepper. Over 1 million Scoville units. Some humans can't even handle it." Yilrex recoiled. "This is a weapon." Zane shrugged. "Depends who you ask." Yilrex leaned forward. "Your kind uses this for pleasure." Zane gave a single wink. "Wait until you try it." The room fell silent. Several of the observers stepped back. A woman from the Galactic Nutrition Council whispered urgently into her comm unit. Zane sliced the ghost pepper into the thinnest sliver possible and placed it on a sterile plate. Yilrex stared at it. "You will consume one first." Zane hesitated. "You sure?" "I mean, this stuff is serious. Could cause hallucinations, sweating, even vomiting. If your species can survive it, so can I." Zane popped the sliver into his mouth. The heat hit almost instantly. His face flushed, eyes watered, and he gripped the edge of the table. His vision blurred slightly, and he exhaled hard, gripping a glass of milk he had prepped earlier. He drank it down in 3 gulps. Yilrex watched carefully. "You were struggling." Zane reached for a napkin and wiped his forehead. "It's part of the experience." With visible reluctance, Yilrex picked up a piece and placed it into its mouth. The reaction was immediate. Yilrex doubled over, limbs twitching. A strange gurgling noise escaped its throat. One of the Tharn aides rushed forward but was waved away. The ambassador collapsed onto a cushioned bench, eyes wide, glowing faintly. Zane leaned over. "You all right?" Yilrex managed to croak. "I see." Sound. An hour later, back in the medical bay, Yilrex lay under a bioscanner with several small sensors attached to its skull. Zane sat nearby, drinking water and holding a cold pack to his cheek. A human doctor, Dr. Malin, walked in and checked the readings. "His vitals are stabilizing. No permanent damage, but we're going to keep him overnight." Zane nodded. "I warned him." You said it wouldn't kill him. I said it shouldn't kill him. Yilrex stirred. Your species is not fit for interstellar contact. Zane tilted his head. Because of a pepper? Because you enjoy it. Later, after Yilrex was able to sit up, the two shared a quiet meal: plain rice for Zane, a nutrient gel for Yilrex. You intentionally seek pain, Yilrex said, voice still raspy. Why? Zane leaned back. It's not about the pain. It's about the thrill, the challenge. And yeah, maybe a little pain makes the pleasure sharper. Yilrex considered this. Your cultural practices defy logic. That's what makes them interesting. Over the following week, more Tharn officials attempted to try Earth's spicy dishes. Most gave up after jalapenos. One, a junior diplomat named Yilrex, ended up hospitalized for 3 days after licking a habanero seed. News spread across diplomatic channels. Other species began requesting samples for scientific analysis, they claimed. Back on Earth, Zane received a message from the Interstellar Council. Preliminary findings: human cuisine classified as high risk. Potential culinary bioweapon. He rolled his eyes. Great. We're food terrorists now. Dr. Mallon sighed. You know they're not wrong. You brought ghost peppers to a diplomatic tasting. They asked for the full range. They also asked for a chemical breakdown, not a near-death experience. Zane sat in the council chamber 2 days later, facing representatives from 15 species. Yilrex sat beside him, still recovering, occasionally sipping water. Counselor Vren, a crystalline entity with a voice like wind through reeds, addressed the group. We must determine whether Earth's culinary exports constitute a threat. Yilrex cleared his throat. I misunderstood the intent behind their food. It is not a weapon. It is an experience. Vren tilted slightly. You voluntarily consumed a substance that nearly killed you. And I do not regret it. Zane whispered, really? Yilrex shot him a look. Mostly. Counselor Vren turned its gaze to Zane. Will you submit your culinary registry for safety evaluation? Zane nodded. Of course. And you will refrain from further unapproved tastings? Zane hesitated. I can't promise no one else on Earth will offer you hot sauce. But yeah, I'll keep the ghost peppers in the case. The room murmured. Vren raised a limb. Then Earth's cuisine will be placed under conditional approval, with strict labeling. As the meeting ended, Yilrex approached Zane. Your species continues to perplex me. We're full of surprises. Yilrex paused. Will you teach me how to build tolerance? Zane grinned. Start with salsa. We'll work our way up. That evening, in the Earth Embassy's kitchen, Zane prepared a batch of chili with carefully measured jalapenos. Yilrex sat across from him, a damp cloth across his forehead, but eyes eager. Ready for round 2? Yilrex nodded slowly. Let us begin the training. The training began on the 4th deck of the Earth Embassy ship, inside a repurposed cargo bay now labeled Terrestrial Culinary Orientation Facility. It smelled faintly of vinegar and roasted tomatoes, and the walls had been fitted with absorption panels after an incident involving airborne chili powder and a species that communicated through scent. Yilrex entered wearing a translucent thermal bib and a pair of ocular dampeners designed to reduce tear reflex. His gait was cautious, but his posture had shifted: less suspicion, more curiosity. Zane stood at the island counter arranging ingredients. He wore thick gloves and a clear face shield. A small milk cooler hummed behind him, and 3 sealed pouches labeled in red set unopened to the side. He was slicing red onions into a bowl. You'll start with something fermented, he said, not looking up. Kimchi, cabbage, garlic, chili paste, and salt. Fermentation lowers the impact but builds tolerance. Yilrex approached, eyes narrowing at the bubbling jar. This has been intentionally decayed. Controlled decay. It's how flavor matures. Trust me, this is the shallow end. I detect sulfur. That's the garlic. Also healthy for your blood filtration system, according to the diagnostics we ran. Yilrex picked up the smallest piece with a pair of tongs and dropped it into its mouth. A moment passed. Then another. It blinked once, then twice. There is movement. Fermentation's still active. You'll be fine. It is. Not hostile. Zane laughed. That's the spirit. Try another. Yilrex complied, this time with a larger piece. Its thoracic membranes fluttered once, then relaxed. Curious. The discomfort is not immediate. Exactly. It builds. Some foods don't attack. They sneak up on you. Zane wiped his hands on a towel and handed over a bowl with thin rice noodles, covered in a red sauce flecked with black pepper oil. This is gochujang. Chili paste, fermented soybeans, and glutinous rice. Slight kick, but manageable. You'll want to use your optic dampeners. Yilrex adjusted the lenses over its eyes and leaned in. How often do your kind consume this? Some eat it daily. It's a staple in certain regions. Then why do you sweat when preparing it? Because I'm used to northern dishes. Less heat, more butter. This stuff still gets me sometimes. Yilrex tasted the noodles. It chewed slowly, then paused. Its head tilted. There is a sensation along the upper spine. That would be the endorphin surge. Your body thinks it's under attack, so it releases chemicals to calm you down. Your physiology encourages this cycle? Not intentionally, but once you learn to enjoy the rush, it's hard to go back. Yilrex set the bowl down. Your species has weaponized pleasure. Zane laughed again. We prefer to call it developing a palate. 3 hours later, Yilrex had completed the mild circuit. Kimchi, gochujang, spicy lentil stew, and a micro-dosed hot sauce from Trinidad that Zane diluted in broth. Its internal temperature had risen 6 degrees, but its system stabilized with minimal intervention. Dr. Mallon monitored remotely and approved continuation under observation. The next segment required a larger space. There's a food fair on Arcadia Station tomorrow, Zane said, sealing a container of pickled daikon. It's neutral ground. Species from 12 systems bring their edibles. You'll get context for how our stuff compares. I will require environmental modulation. I filed the request. You'll have filtered respiration and thermal regulation units. You'll blend right in. The following cycle, they docked at Arcadia. The promenade buzzed with chatter and scent. Bright banners flapped in artificial airflow, each stall labeled in multiple languages. A gelatinous merchant offered translucent cubes that pulsed lightly with static. Further down, a reptilian vendor carved slices off a slow-roasted root that hissed when it hit the plate. Yilrex followed Zane closely, glancing from booth to booth. This is overwhelming. That's the point. Start here. Zane stopped at a stall with a modest earth flag. Behind the table, an older woman with sun-darkened skin and a wide-brimmed hat stirred a bubbling pot. Steam curled around her face as she waved a ladle. I thought my mother's chili would be a safe bet, Zane said. No ghost anything. The woman nodded at Yilrex. This the one who saw sound. Zane winced. Yes, but we're easing him in today. Yilrex accepted a small cup of chili. The liquid shimmered slightly. It sniffed, then tasted. This is complex. Beef, beans, cumin, tomato, mild chilies. Layered heat. It doesn't punch, it lingers. Yilrex finished the portion and stood still for several seconds. Finally, it said, I will take a second. The woman laughed and handed over another. You're braver than some of the officers around here. Zane guided Yilrex along the promenade. They tried a Soren sugar sphere that dissolved into a foam. A Myrian root broth that caused mild euphoria. Then they reached a stall marked experimental fusion. The vendor, a 3-armed being with skin like slate, grinned at them. Human spice levels. Integrated with L-Tari starches. Want a sample? Zane peered at the tray. What's the carrier? Tubers grown on low-gravity fields. Absorb spice faster. We used Carolina Reaper extract in the glaze. Yilrex paused. What is the Scoville rating? Over 2 million, Zane said. That's double ghost pepper. Yilrex reached for a piece. Wait, Zane said, grabbing its wrist. You haven't built tolerance past habanero levels. You'll fry your neural tissue. I wish to understand. You can't skip steps. I can endure. Zane looked at the vendor. Do you have a half dose? The vendor pointed to a smaller tray. Diluted for beginners. Still sharp. Yilrex took one. The moment it touched its taste membrane, it froze. Zane grabbed a cooling cloth and pressed it to Yilrex's head. The alien's limbs flexed once, then twice, and it exhaled slowly. I can see my homeworld. Zane pulled it toward a bench. Breathe. Focus. You're still here. I hear the pulse of ancient stone. Definitely the endorphins. Yilrex blinked several times. I do not hate it. Yeah, that's how it gets you. Later that night, aboard the Earth Embassy vessel, Yilrex lay in the nutrient recovery chamber. Zane sat beside it, holding a data pad. You know, most species give up by habanero. I have learned that the boundary between pain and revelation is thinner than I assumed. Maybe. Or maybe you just like chasing the weird. I am beginning to suspect your entire species does. Zane leaned back. It's not about liking the pain. It's about what comes after it. Clarity, maybe. Or just the story. Yilrex's breathing stabilized. I will need time to reflect. No rush. We've got a shipment of ghost pepper extract arriving next week. Plenty of time to work up to it. Zane stood and headed for the exit. Before stepping out, he paused. Oh, and Yilrex? Yes. Next time, we're making wings. Hope your species handles vinegar. The fire alarms went off exactly 6 minutes after the first wing hit the oil. Zane, wearing a heat-resistant apron emblazoned with the faded logo of a long-defunct Earth hot sauce brand, leapt backwards from the industrial fryer as a column of steam shot up toward the ceiling ducts. The scent that followed charred vinegar, fermented chili extract, and faint citrus slammed into the room like a physical force. A nearby maintenance drone spun in a confused loop before retreating into the ceiling tiles. Yilrex, seated at a stainless steel prep table and wearing a new set of scent filters, turned its head slowly toward the fryer. That is not a food preparation alarm. Nope, Zane said, lifting the basket and shaking it with a practiced flick of the wrist. That's the "you brought something weird on board" alarm. It goes off when the air sensors detect volatile capsaicinoids above tolerance thresholds. I disabled the automatic suppressant this time. You anticipated this response. After last week? Absolutely. Yilrex adjusted its ocular dampeners, now tinted a faint amber. What is the purpose of igniting oil with acid compounds? Flavor layering, Zane said, plating the wings. You sear the sauce onto the surface. Traps the aroma. That's what hits first. He set the tray down between them. 12 wings, glistening red-orange, steam rising in lazy coils. Yilrex leaned slightly forward, nostrils narrowing. These look inflamed. Wait until you bite one. Yilrex reached for a wing with a pair of tongs and turned it over. The skin crackled faintly. This is poultry muscle. You applied a compound derived from fruit to the protein of an unrelated species. Is that common? Standard barbecue practice. Cross-species flavor profiles. Keeps things interesting. Yilrex raised the wing. What is the dosage? About 300,000 Scoville units. Same as a Thai bird chili. Manageable. I'm not trying to trigger cardiac arrhythmia. That is comforting. Yilrex bit down. There was a pause longer than usual. Then, with measured effort, it chewed. Once. Twice. A slow exhale followed. Its limbs remained still. A faint tremor passed through its lower jaw, and it blinked in sequence, but otherwise didn't react. Zane leaned in. You okay? Yilrex swallowed. It is sharp, not overwhelming. The acidity balances the heat. You're processing it faster. I have been training. Zane raised an eyebrow. You've been eating off ship. Unofficially. The Soren chef on Deck 12 provided fermented radish paste. I mixed it with rehydrated root starch. You've been making your own fusion cuisine? I was curious. Zane shook his head, impressed. I should have known. Yilrex reached for a second wing without hesitation. This is tolerable. I believe I can proceed. They ate in silence for several minutes. Zane downed 2, then paused to wipe his hands. Yilrex consumed 4, slower, methodical. On the 5th, its breathing became audible, a soft rhythmic flutter from its thoracic vents. Still tolerable? It is intensifying. But I remain functional. Zane opened a bottle of chilled coconut milk and handed it over. Yilrex hesitated, then sipped. Its eyes widened. This neutralizes the compound's adhesion. Fat content. Capsaicin's oil-soluble. Water just spreads it around. Yilrex examined the bottle. Your species evolved alongside these defenses? Well, we figured things out after generations of crying in kitchens. Remarkable. Zane stood and began wiping down the counter. You've come a long way. Last time you hallucinated your homeworld's tectonic harmonics. I was unprepared. And now you're casually eating wing 6. That's progress. Yilrex set down the bone. I no longer perceive the heat as adversarial. That's the trick. Once you stop fighting it, you start tasting beyond the burn. There was a brief knock at the door. A tall, willowy being with translucent skin and rotating jaw plates entered. It wore a diplomatic sash and carried a small data slate. Apologies for intrusion, it said in a high, humming tone. I am Envoy Vol of the Yilrex Cultural Office. We received a report of unauthorized culinary emissions. Zane sighed. It's wings, not emissions. We traced particulate capsic haze to this compartment. Our atmospheric specialist registered distress. Yilrex stood. It was intentional. I consented. Vol tilted its head. You ingested the substance? I did. It was not harmful. Only intense. Vol's jaw plates rotated once. We are required to catalog the event. May we observe a controlled replication? Zane blinked. You want to watch him eat a wing? For educational purposes. Yilrex nodded. I will demonstrate. Zane reheated a spare batch. Vol leaned in, antennae twitching, as Yilrex consumed the 7th wing without pause. Vol's outer membranes flushed pale orange. Biologically improbable. We're very adaptable, Zane said, flipping off the fryer. Vol recorded the ingestion and handed Zane a small envelope. Your establishment is now classified as a limited access cultural zone. Only registered participants may enter during active testing. You're giving me a permit? With restrictions. No open ventilation. And no dispersal of airborne sauces. Zane gave a mock salute. Understood. Vol bowed and left, still murmuring into its translator. Yilrex finished the final wing and leaned back. There is a sensation of triumph. That's capsaicin euphoria. It'll wear off. I do not wish it to. Zane chuckled. That's how the addiction starts. 2 hours later, after cleanup and ventilation, Yilrex sat in the observation lounge overlooking the docking ring. Zane joined him with a plain sandwich and a bottle of water. I spoke with the council liaison, Zane said. They're updating Earth's culinary classification. Still high risk, but now marked as culturally significant. That is an improvement. They're also recommending voluntary participation for any species attempting ingestion. As they should. Zane took a bite of his sandwich. You know, I wasn't sure this would work. Most species take one taste and retreat forever. Yilrex turned toward the viewport. Your foods challenge the body and the mind. That is rare among planetary cuisines. Zane nodded. We've got a weird relationship with pain. It has taught me resilience. Zane raised his bottle. To pain, then. To understanding. They clinked bottles. A small gesture that, for once, needed no translation. By the next cycle, Yilrex had filed a formal request to become Earth's cultural liaison for non-lethal culinary exchange. It was approved unanimously. 3 days later, the first interspecies spice workshop opened on Deck 14. Attendance exceeded projections within an hour. 2 Tharn, a Soren, and 1 very determined Yilrex signed up for the beginner's course. Zane watched from the galley, arms folded, as Yilrex demonstrated how to coat a chicken wing without triggering the station's alarm system. Don't inhale during the toss, Yilrex advised. And always prepare your dairy neutralizer in advance. Zane grinned, stepped back, and let the class unfold. No dramatics. No hallucinations. Just an alien, teaching others how to burn without fear. And not a single ghost pepper in sight.